the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation since May 2009.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, just to put your evidence today in context, you are aware of the Waterkloof landing, or what is the incident where a commercial aircraft landed at the Waterkloof Defence Force Base. And I'm not sure whether you had followed the evidence that has been led before the Commission from various witnesses, including Ambassador Koloane's evidence. And that happened on the 30th of April 2013. How did you get to know about that incident? Because at the time you were the Minister of International Relations.
Well, I got to know of the landing of the aircraft on television.
Yes. And was that...
I'm sorry, just repeat that.
I got to know that an aircraft had landed on television.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And as a minister, what steps did you take?
I immediately called the DG, the then DG, who is our ambassador in New York now, for a permanent rep.
Yes, so that to be Ambassador Machila, because he has also testified. Is that?
I hear he has also testified, yes.
Yes.
I saw him, yes.
Yes,
Yes,
all right. Yes, thank you.
And I wanted to understand, how did we get involved in this? So,
Or maybe before you get there, maybe you can just tell me the whole story that you had on television, because probably whatever was said might have included something about your department, and then you reacted in a certain way, blah, 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 blah. So
Yes.
maybe, what did you hear on television, and then how did you react, blah, blah, blah.
well, when the news broke, a private aircraft had landed in a supposed to be secure space for government. So I wasn't perturbed at first, because many such incidences happen without us. We only get involved if there was a diplomatic guest arriving. So that's when at first I wasn't really worried, because we wouldn't be involved.
So what was said on television did not include any reference to your department, at least what you had at the time?
At the time, yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
Okay. So your reaction was, at least it's got nothing to do with my department at that stage.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, please continue.
Yes. Thank you, Chair. And then at what point then, Minister, did you realize that you had to take steps now as the Minister of International Relations after you have had the report from the radio, or from TV? Okay.
Well, we heard that the Chief of State Protocol was present in the vicinity, in the area. So that's when I wanted to understand, what was he doing there? So that's when I called the then DG and the former ambassador and the head of HR to understand what this was about.
So when you say you called the DG, that was Mr. Machila. And when you say the former ambassador, you're referring to Mr. Koloane?
Yes.
Yes, and then there's a third person that you say you called?
Mr. Mawai was the head of HR then.
Yes, okay, all right.
Yes.
Yes, continue.
So to understand what this was about, from the outset, we wanted to understand because we were not involved, so I wanted to understand who sent him to Waterkloof. He said no, it had nothing to do with the department. He had not been sent. It was an oversight. So I said, okay, now that we're not
This
involved,
is now Mr. Koloane saying that to you?
Yes.
Yes, okay, continue.
So I said, I'm not happy. I then instructed DG that he has in himself that he has to face a disciplinary process, which ensued. Yes.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So, just by because of your experience, having been a Minister of International Relations, was this the first incident to occur where you would have an aircraft of this nature landing at an airbase, and you have your Chief of State Protocol being part of that exercise, and without you as the Minister having any knowledge of that?
Yes, because if other aircrafts normally do not, or other visitors normally do not, if they were not visiting us, but they are part of, they're serving in their respective governments, they will directly go to the relevant department and make applications there. So we only got involved if this was a diplomatic mission, and proper applications had to be made.
So where an aircraft would bring in diplomatic personnel, maybe, I don't know if that's the correct name, but the kind of people that would require your department to be involved, would you always know in advance, or it would depend on the level of the diplomatic persons involved as minister?
Chair, it would depend on the level of the guest.
Okay.
Yes. But even with that, we would have to check documentary proof if there would have been a need post.
Okay. The level at which you would have to know in advance would be from what? From minister level?
Minister, head of state.
Yes, and deputy president or prime minister and so on.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And at the time then when you had, just before you had directed that disciplinary hearings, proceedings be brought against Ambassador Koloane, did he make any mention of why he did what he did?
Never, except to own up. He's been owning up and not saying, how did he get to do this? So he went through the disciplinary process, but he opened up, and again he owned up. And that's when he got the sanctions that I had presented in my affidavit, and he got to get the punishment he got.
Yes, let's talk about the meeting, because I take it to have been a meeting, but you must tell me if I'm wrong, where you had the then DG, Mr. Koloane, and the head of HR, that meeting. It was a meeting, is that right?
Well,
or was it not? Where you had this story?
It was when, Chair, I was just trying to establish the facts as to really, did this happen? But I did not want to be, because I did not want to be alone, because it's not my it's too involved, because it's not my responsibility necessarily to run the administration. Yes.
But you did obviously want to know what happened, and then in order to be able to make up your mind whether you should ask the DG to invoke some disciplinary processes.
Well, I wanted to know the basics, but I didn't want to get too involved when the process hadn't even started.
Yes. So at that meeting, did he, you said, I think you said he owned up, and he said it was oversight, is that right?
Yes, because I asked, what task were you performing as Chief of State Protocol? he could not respond. He said it was an oversight.
Yes, yes.
So I thought this is a case for disciplinary process. So I must get out
Yes,
so
yes.
that the government officials deal with the matter, senior officials, properly.
Yes.
Yes.
So at that stage, did he say anything to you, or did you know at that stage anything about the allegation that he had told some officials that the president knew about this aircraft that was going to land, or that instructions had been given either by the president or Minister of Transport or Minister of Defense? At that stage, do you recall whether that was something that you had heard about, or did he tell you about it, or is that something that you might have got to know later?
I heard about that later because like I said, Chair, I did not want to get myself
Too
involved
Yeah.
so that we establish real facts.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Minister, would it, ordinarily, is it possible for any ambassador, I'm so sorry, for any minister or head of state at the level at which you have already identified, that is senior ministers and heads of state, is it possible for them to arrive in the country without you knowing as a Minister of International Relations?
Some do. They are on holiday.
If it's not official.
If it's not official,
Yeah.
they arrive
Yeah.
and they go. Some, out of courtesy, Chair, do say, we are around.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
But if it's official,
If it's
you would know.
official, there will be a diplomatic note
Yes.
that
Yeah.
says, here is an envoy, if it's an envoy of President so-and-so, or is a minister of this and that. Those things are normally dealt with by the protocol division, but if the guest was to come to me or to the president, that's when I would then act, because I would then have to participate in their program.
Does that mean that one could have a situation where a minister comes into the minister from another country, comes into the country on official business, and all the documentation has been done, but you might not know because he or she doesn't need to see you and doesn't need to see the president? In other words, would you only know personally because the minister concerned wants to see you while he or she is in the country, or wants to see the president? If they don't want to see you or the president, they might be in the country and you might not know of personally, but officials in your department would know. Would that be possible?
It is possible. Like I repeat, Chair, there will be a paper trail of diplomatic notes between their respective embassies and the protocol and the department. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. And then, Minister, moving then to, then after you had directed that disciplinary proceedings should be leveled against him, and then, as you've told the Chair, that happened. Then when next did you get involved in the matter, if you did?
I next got involved, Chair, when the results came out of the disciplinary process, and I sanctioned, I signed off, and he went to serve his term and came back. By the way, former Ambassador Koloane, I first met him in 2007, see him for the first time in Spain during President Mbeki's time. He was ambassador of South Africa in Spain. So when he came back, I had become a minister. This man had served in Cote d'Ivoire for representing DTI, in Japan, in China, Shanghai. So in all the areas that he had worked in, he had excelled. So he came back, and we needed to, he came back at the time when we were advertising a post for the DDG for protocol.
Okay, I'm sorry, Minister. Before we get to that point, you and I and Ms. Norman and your counsel probably remember some of the details because we have had to look at the documentation ahead of today, but other people might have forgotten certain things. I think let's start with what you established the result of the disciplinary process to have been. In other words, the disciplinary process concluded and you got to know. Tell us what you got to know had happened at the disciplinary process and what the outcome was, and so that we can then follow everything properly.
Well, the disciplinary process found that Chair, he should be suspended for a period of 3 months, 2 months, I'm sorry, one of the 3 months without pay.
I saw your affidavit says that, but I think the ruling says suspension without pay for 2 months. It doesn't seem to make any reference to 3 months. You might be mistaken about that.
Let me get the chair again.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't know whether there is some problem with my one now. You must tell me if there is.
No, Chair, I can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Minister, can you hear me quite clearly?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm saying I saw that in your affidavit, you said that the sanction that had been imposed on him was 3 months.
Yes.
I'm saying that when I looked at the ruling of the chairperson, it said 2 months. There was no reference to 3 months as I read it. So I'm just wanting to check whether you might not be mistaken about saying 3 months.
I can go and check the records
Yes,
again.
okay, all right. Yeah, as I understand, I think Ms. Norman also says the same.
Yes, Chair.
It says 2 months.
Yes, Chair. May I just direct the Minister to the relevant page?
Okay.
Thank you. Minister, next to you, you will find that there's 2 lever arch files. The one is marked Exhibit FF3. If you just turn it on the spine, outside the spine, outside the file. Sorry. Hold on.
Exhibit
Oh, sorry.
FF8.
Okay. Sorry.
This one.
Thank you. FF3, yes, thank you. If you may please turn to page 36 of that bundle. Chair, it will be under a divider marked...
I found it.
Oh, have you found it? Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. Marked 6. What happened?
It's at page 36
Page
at the top.
Yes. Thank you, Chair.
It's under paragraph 12. Can you see it?
Yes.
Chair, are you allowing me to proceed?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Para 12.1, suspension without pay for a period of 2 months as an alternative to dismissal in terms of clause 2.7, bracketed 4 of chapter 7 of the SMS handbook. 12.2, final written warning which shall be placed on the employee's personal file and shall remain valid for 6 months.
Yes.
Yes.
So your reference to the 3 months might have been mistaken.
Yes, sir.
Yes, okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Chair, may the Minister also read paragraph 11, because it seems to tie in with the sanction above paragraph 12, where you've just read on the same page. Paragraph 11.
Okay. Based on my consideration, that's Mr. Advocate Matlajwane, of the facts, both parties aggravating and mitigating factors, I strongly recommend that the employer seriously consider redeploying Koloane to another branch in order to revive the confidence, integrity, and efficiency of state protocol.
Thank you. Then upon receipt of this, then what did you do, Minister?
Well, maybe
Sorry.
before
Before
that,
yes.
I must just say this. That last page, Minister, in which the sanction appears, is page 9 of the disciplinary chairperson's ruling on sanction. I don't have page 8 of that ruling. And also, there is no page, I don't have page 6. I do have page 7. I did not have these pages last time when there was a hearing. I understand that various attempts have been made to try and obtain these pages. I take it, and Ms. Norman will confirm, including from your former department. Probably you can do nothing about it now because you are not in that department. So excuse me, one doesn't know what the chairperson had said in page 8, which may have informed what he says or she says. I don't know if it was a he or a she, at the top of page 9 of the ruling, page 36 of the bundle, under paragraph 11. So I just mentioned that. I don't know whether you have any recollection whether when you previously saw the ruling, if it was given to you at the time, whether it had all the pages.
Well, it had all the pages.
Yes.
Chair.
Okay, we have that disadvantage. Yes, okay, all right, continue.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Chair. I confirm, Chair, the steps, and we have prepared a small bundle for the Chair of the efforts that the Commission had made. But
maybe you should deal with it now so that we put it aside.
Yes, Chair. May I
just tell
have
me
that?
what efforts have been made.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. That is a document that consists of various emails, but maybe we could start, Chair. I know emails, we've got to start backwards, but I'm advised that maybe we might need to just...
Some of us,
You want to start with the
when
latest?
it comes to technology, have certain challenges, but
Yes.
start wherever it's convenient
Yes.
to start. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, may we start then at page 5 of that, which is the latest communication, again, another last attempt which we made yesterday to Advocate M.B. Matlajwane, who was the chairperson. And I confirm that I spoke to her personally, and she produced this email, sent this email to the Commission. It says, "Good day. It's addressed to myself and to Ms. Rasivishele. I refer to the matter. I was..."
Yeah, Chair.
Page 5 up.
This that which I have has 4. It ends with page 4.
It doesn't have page 5.
It doesn't have page 5. So
Thank you. May I just read into the record, Minister? I'm sorry. I'm sure it was in copying those.
Is there no spare
No
copy of
sp-
page 5?
Unfortunately, there were only 3, Chair. Only 3. yes.
Okay, she will read the whole.
We'll make it available.
document, yeah,
Yes,
yes,
thank you,
thank
Chair.
you.
Thank you. Page 5, she says, "Good day. I refer to the above matter. I was the chairperson in the disciplinary hearing of Ambassador V.B. Koloane in 2009. I was contacted by the Department of International Relations and Cooperation sometime in August 2019, seeking missing pages, page 6 and page 8 of the sanction. I did confirm I think she meant to say to the department, that unfortunately I do not have the document anymore, My office was using a different system then, and I do not have the file anymore. I was also contacted by Mr. Mlambo several times from the commission, and I informed him that I do not have the file anymore. Regards, Advocate M.B. Matlojwane. And then Chair would observe that page 4 of that document
Yes.
consists of emails. Chair, if you would let me please start from page 1, because
Yes.
then that's a flow of emails from.
Yes.
Yes. Page 1, it's an email from Mr. Pet Mlambo to myself for my information. He had forwarded all the emails. We requested him to forward all the emails in relation to this matter, which he forwarded yesterday. But then below that, there's an email which was sent on the 14th of August, 2019 at 8 to the Advocate Joini, who is a legal advisor within the Department of DERCO. I was copied, and the subject, it was from Mr. Petlin Mlambo, the investigator. And the subject was Re-Ambassador VP Koloane's sanction. Morning all, I did get hold of Advocate Matlojwane just now, and she informed me that they are still trying to find the document, which unfortunately, and it puts in brackets, and mysteriously is missing from her file. Also, that it has since been a while that she presided over the matter, and in the process, she has since had a new PA. I therefore advise her to reduce this into a statement that she could not find the missing pages of the sanction instead of just a telephonic discussion about it. She undertook to do so as advised. The following is the email address she provided for future correspondence. Then, Chair, the next page, page 2, it's an email from Advocate Joini from DERCO. It's dated 13 August 1516. Dear Advocate Norman, thank you very much for your guidance, much appreciated. And then in there, I had sent an email to Advocate Joini on the 13th of August. Dear Ambassador, thank you for your response. I suggest that you escalate the matter to the DG because Mr. Puti is not responding. If that does not work, DERCO must write to the presiding officer and request a copy of the sanction. So the responses that we're getting are is a result of that effort. And then again on Tuesday, on the 13th of August, Advocate Joini wrote to me, Dear Advocate Norman, thank you very much for your email. Our Labor Relations section has been trying since July 31st. See the emails below, dated 31st August, 2nd and 5th August. Your guidance will be highly appreciated. There is an email, Chair, that is dated the 31st of August. The date reflects at page 2, and if Chair turns to page 3, that is the subject, Ambassador VP Koloane's sanction. That email is from Mr. Jeffrey Mamabolo, Director Labor Relations. This is what he said. Dear Mr. Puti, our conversation earlier refers, attached herewith is Ambassador VP Koloane's sanction as discussed. You will notice that page 6 and 8 are missing, hence my humble request for the said pages. Your assistance will be highly appreciated. And then it's followed by another email on the 2nd of August. Dear Mr. Puti, this one is from Mr. Mamabolo again. Dear Mr. Puti, the email before and our subsequent conversation refers. Please be reminded to check for pages 6 and 8 of Ambassador Koloane's sanction. Thanks very much in advance. And then again on the 5th of August, Mr. Mababolo wrote, please be informed that I tried to call your offices this morning without any success. I just wanted to follow up if whether you managed to locate the missing pages as per my request below. Your response will be greatly appreciated. So these efforts, Chair, started way back in July, as soon as after the hearings of the evidence of the witnesses that related to the Waterkloof. But Chair, we have taken further steps now to approach the representatives of Ambassador Koloane. Unfortunately, at the hearing, Ambassador Koloane was not represented, but was represented by Labor Relations. That's what the record shows. But we have directly now made contact with his current attorneys, or at least those that represented him before the commission. They have indicated that their documents are they have been archived, and that they will look for that. They will respond to the commission by Monday next week.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Then, Minister, then you then received the sanction, and what are the steps then that you took? Were you satisfied with the sanction? And then, if you were, then what steps did you take?
Well, the steps I took was to immediately remember him from Ambassador Koloane from being, since the saga started, we shifted him, but we then made sure that he doesn't go back to protocol.
Yes.
When he came back after the sanction, he was...
And when we say after the sanction, you mean after the suspension?
After the suspension.
Yes.
After he had served the suspension.
The 2 months.
Yes. He was sitting in the DG's office, like really, literally, we couldn't demote him. He's the DDG. He's sitting in the DG's office doing a manual work that a director could do for all the time period before we had to get him gainfully. Yes, because salary was paid at the DDG level. He had gone through the disciplinary process. He's back in terms of labor laws. So he never went back to where he was serving before, as it is suggested that he should not in the documents here. In the conclusion of the disciplinary hearing, that he should not go back to the position that he was in.
I want to go back to paragraph 11 of that ruling, but before that, I want to confirm that you did understand as the department or as the minister at the time that as far as the sanction for his conduct was concerned, it was only the suspension for 2 months without pay and the final written warning. That's all that you were required to do to comply with the sanction. You understood that part.
Yes, Chair.
And then there was this other part, which maybe looks like a recommendation. I just want to read it again. In paragraph 11 of her rule, it was a she, Ms. Norman? The chairperson of the disciplinary hearing.
It was the chairperson, that is.
It was a lady.
A lady chair,
Yes.
yes. Thank you.
She says, based on my consideration of the facts, both parties' aggravating and mitigating factors, I strongly recommend that the employer seriously consider redeploying Ambassador Koloane to another branch in order to revive the confidence, integrity, and efficiency of state protocol. What was your understanding of this recommendation?
My understanding was that he should, because we would not have been involved in the landing of an aircraft somewhere if it was not that he had put himself there as a protocol. So the recommendation, I understood it to mean that, exactly that. He erred by putting himself where he shouldn't have, and putting the integrity of state protocol in a precarious situation. Yes.
So, was your understanding that what you were obliged to do was to put him on suspension without pay for 2 months and have a final written warning on his file that would be there that would be valid for 6 months, but that there was also a recommendation with which you were not obliged to comply, but which you could consider in your own way and see whether you would go with it or not. Was that your understanding?
Yes, that as a former ambassador, I understood that protocol, it's protocol. So I took even the para before 12 into consideration. That's why he never returned back to being to protocol. And even when he came back, as much as he was still at the level of a DDG, because that's a position you apply and get appointed for, he could not go back to that. And I was convinced, like I said, as a former ambassador, that protocol is to be respected as protocol. Yes.
Yes, I understand that part, but I just want to understand what your understanding was at the time, namely that as far as what appears in paragraph 11 is concerned, you didn't take that, or did you, as binding upon you to do what is said there. You took it as a suggestion, and you had to evaluate and see if you went along with it, whereas with regard to what is in paragraph 12, putting him on suspension without pay for 2 months, and a final written warning, whether that is what you took as obligatory upon you, but the other one as a suggestion, a recommendation, which you had to weigh and see if you were going along with it. Or did you take all of them as obligatory?
Chair, I took 12 as obligatory, yes, but I further took advice from paragraph 11 because I did not send him back to position of Chief of State Protocol, as the paragraph says.
So you took paragraph 11 as advice?
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
Yes.
And took paragraph 12 as obligatory?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And then if my calculation then, if one interprets that sanction, would be that because the sanction was dated the 29th of July, 2013, then, and the written warning part, which appears at paragraph 12.2, would have expired in January of 2014, that 6 months period. Yes. So then at the expiry of that 6 months period, then what happened?
Well,
Mr. Man, don't you want her to deal with what happened, which she has started dealing with, what happened when the suspension period of 2 months expired?
Oh, yes.
She started dealing with it, but I don't think she had completed.
Oh, yes.
I think I interrupted her while she was talking about that.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Yes.
you, Chair. Yes.
Maybe let's go back to saying, how did you effect the sanction that said he should be on suspension without pay for 2 months? How did you effect that? How was that effected or implemented at a practical level?
Well, at a practical level, it had to be the responsibility, as per my instruction, to the officials that are responsible for undertaking such tasks. Yes.
Do you know how it was effected at a practical level, or is the position that you conveyed an instruction as to what should happen, but you don't know whether it did happen?
I trust that it did happen.
Yes. You don't know for sure.
Well, I never got
A report.
a report that says it
Did not happen. Yes. But you also didn't get a report to say, Minister, we have given effect to the sanction, this is what happened.
The report of giving effect was verbal, and it was conveyed to me by the then DG.
Yes.
Yes.
My understanding of the suspension part of the sanction is that the department was required to not to allow him to be at work for 2 months and not to pay him for that period of 2 months. Was that your understanding as well?
Yes.
Yes, and to the extent that you may have given instructions to officials, the instruction would have been along those lines.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Just for record purposes, that part that Chair has just asked appears at pages 38 to 40 of the same bundle. Minister, if you could just turn to page 38. There is a memorandum to the Director General which is approved that relates to the sanction without pay. I'm not sure whether this is the answer that you had given to the
Yes, Chair.
Chairperson.
Yes.
Yes, pages 38 and 39, Chair, and it's signed by the Director General, and that signature appears at page 39.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, that's a memo. Is it from the Human Resources Unit of the Department to the Director General
Yes,
to
Chair.
approve implementation of the suspension without pay sanction?
Yes, Chair.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Then, Minister, then that's the first part of the sanction. Then the second part was the written warning part. And then if you go back, then that written warning would have expired in January of 2014.
Yes, Chair.
Yes. How does it work practically in civil service? If there has been a written warning and then that period comes, it expires, does that mean that it's expunged completely from the records? How does it work?
As it is stated in the sanction, it says it shall remain in the personnel file.
Yes.
So it means at the end of that period, it should no longer, it's rendered having been removed from the file, or because even if it remains a record, but it ceases to become what, it stays as, gets a,
You don't pay attention to it after the expiry of the period. Is that your understanding?
well, that's what labor law, we follow labor law.
Yes, no,
Yes.
I understand, but I'm just wanting to understand your own understanding of what it means to say it has expired. Is it that you don't pay attention to it after it has expired?
Yes, Chief.
Okay.
Because I think the law advises so.
Yeah, well, sometimes there are all kinds of interpretations of the law, but I don't think it's necessary for us to bother about that part.
Yes. Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you, Chair. Then, Minister, at page, if you go back to your statement now, thank you. At page, in paragraph 4 of your statement, Ambassador Makila did give the chairperson the background to the process, but we would like to understand the process at ministerial level when a person is to be posted now as an ambassador, and the consideration that you would have taken into account in dealing with Ambassador Koloane. Could you just give the chairperson how does the whole issue of vacancies that you make mention of in paragraph 5, how does that happen, and what do you mean by the cycle that you make reference to in both paragraphs 4 and 5? If you could just explain that process.
Okay.
I'm going to interrupt you, Ms. Norman. I'm
Yes.
sorry about that.
Yes, Chair.
But I think before we get there,
Yes.
let's get the complete picture of what was happening with regard to Mr. Koloane from the time he came back after the expiry of the 2 months of suspension to the time when you recommended that he be appointed as ambassador for the Netherlands. You had already started saying he was sitting in the DG's office doing work that a director could do, but being paid at the level of Deputy Director General. So I don't know whether that's all you wanted to convey as to what was happening with him during that time. I just want to make sure that if there is more you want to tell me in regard to what was happening, you are able to tell me the full story.
The answer, Chair, is yes, but he also showed contrition because ours was to observe him as he was sitting where he was sitting. Thank you, Chair.
And maybe going back one step back, with regard to the result of the disciplinary process, did you get to know, I mean, you told me that you got to know what the sanction was. Did you get to know that he had pleaded guilty to 3 charges, and did you get to know what those charges were? Did you see the documentation and all of that at that time?
I did, but I can't recall each what were they, but I
Yes.
remember.
At that time, you
Yes.
informed yourself fully
Yes, Chief.
about what had transpired at the disciplinary hearing.
Yes, Chief.
You might not be able to remember now, but at that time,
Yes.
you informed yourself fully.
Yes.
And I take it that you would then have seen that he pleaded guilty to 3 charges, and those charges, Ms. Norman,
Yes, Chair.
I think I would like us to refer to them.
To them, I'll give you the page now, Chair. Sorry.
They must be
They
in the same.
appear at page 25 of the same bundle.
I
beg your pardon, Chair, page 5 of the, yes, page 5, I beg your pardon, what appears at 25
That is
the ruling.
of double F3.
Of FF3, that is correct.
Page 5.
Page 5, Chair, yes. Page 5.
Have you got that page,
Minister? Do you have the page, Minister?
Minister?
The relevant page 5 on top.
the bundle
I have
that had the
6,
ruling of the
5, 6.
chairperson of the disciplinary hearing?
The
5.
5.
You don't have 5?
No.
I don't know what they've
4,
done with your bundle.
I
6,
think
7.
Yes.
maybe somebody is sabotaging you, Minister.
Oh, yes, let's use that one. Thank you. Chair, that the one that Minister's Council is giving us is the Commission's bundle. But
Maybe
it's an
let
extra
us
bundle.
do this, because we're about to reach the time for the tea adjournment.
Yes, Chair.
Let me take the tea adjournment now.
Yes.
Will somebody just make sure that the minister has got the
full
same
set.
documents and bundles that we have,
Yes.
and that she has all the same pages?
Thank you,
We
Chair.
mustn't have pages that she doesn't
That she does
have,
not have, yes.
and so on.
Thank
So
you,
we'll
Chair.
take the tea adjournment 5 minutes early so that this can be sorted out.
Thank you.
It's about 9 minutes past now. We are going to resume at 25 past 11.
Thank you, Chair.
So that can be sorted out.
We'll do that.
Or maybe I'll make it 1:30, because there might be time to sort that out, and you must have time
Thank you, Chair.
for tea.
Thank you, Chair. Yes.
We adjourn.
So this is. Okay, let me just go to the witness point.
She can use that one. I think that's gone.
We were looking at the charges.
Yes. Thank you,
I
Chair.
think I would prefer to go to the ruling of the chairperson of the disciplinary inquiry,
Yes,
where she also repeated what the charges are,
Yes, Chair.
what the charges were. I think that appears, or the charge sheet appears at page 7, Minister. Can you see page 7? But I want to go to...
That would be page 26, Chair.
26.
26, yes.
Yes, okay, let's go to page 26. Yes, that is the chairperson's ruling. It starts at page 25.
That is
right?
correct, Chair. Yes.
Are you able to find it, Minister? Yes, okay. Please switch on your mic, so
Yes,
yeah,
Chair.
whatever you say will
Thank
be
you.
recorded.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, the representative of the employer at the disciplinary hearing is recorded as having been Dr. H.N. Manzini. Would that be a person that you would have known at the time, or not really?
Not really.
Oh, okay, all right. Now, at page 26, the chairperson of the disciplinary inquiry records that the charges were as follows. Charge 1, it is alleged that during the period February 2013 to April 2013, the employee, that is Mr. Koloane, abused diplomatic channels and took it upon himself to facilitate an illegal request for landing of an international aircraft at the Air Force Base, Waterkloof, on the 30th April 2013 between 6:50 and 7 o'clock in the morning. Charge 2, it is alleged that the employee misrepresented facts in an endeavor to procure the illegal and unlawful and or wrongful landing. Charge 3, the employee compromised the processes and procedures of his employer in that 14.1, there was no review and or recommendation from the political desk in the department on this particular request, and 14.2, the interdepartmental coordination process that normally ensues did not take place. Those were the 3 charges. Now that I've read them and you have looked at them, does that do they accord with what you understood the charges to have been?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Thank
All right,
you.
maybe if you can give your answer in such a way that can be recorded and heard.
Chair,
It accords with what you understood the charges to have been.
yes.
Okay, all right. The actual ruling, do you remember whether it may have been part or was part of the documents that you did see at the end of the disciplinary process? This particular ruling by the chairperson, the document we are looking at now, do you recall whether it was part of the documents that you saw that may have been given to you to apprise you of what happened at the disciplinary process?
Chair,
You can't remember?
I remember,
Yeah.
but I do know that the processes of the work that is done by professionals, it's not necessarily what the executing authority should be chasing on daily basis, because you end up not providing proper leadership. And it's the employer number 1 for all the officials in the department is the DG. The executing authority is the political head. So I focused on my political work, and if I need something through the processes of the administration, then I should ask properly so that we are in order. Thank you, sir.
Yes. No, I understand what you are saying. You know, for me, part of what I want to gain from your evidence is the benefit of what you knew and what you did not know about this Waterkloof landing incident, and Ambassador Koloane, as at the time when you made the recommendation that you made. So I'm asking the question whether you recall whether you did see this document, or you might not have seen the document, but you knew important features about it, maybe because you were told in a memo, or maybe you were told verbally.
Well,
Or is the position that you can't remember whether you did see it or you didn't see it?
I might have seen it because it's 2013.
Yes, it's a long
Yes, sir.
time. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but that's why I'm asking, so
Yes.
that I know if you say, no, I definitely saw it and I read it, or you say, look, I'm not sure whether I saw it or not, but I think somebody may have sent a memo to apprise me of what had happened, or somebody may gave me a verbal report, and I understood what I needed to know about the process for purposes of my decisions.
Chair, like I said earlier on, I try to discharge my duties as far as I understood what my responsibilities were
Yes.
on daily basis
Yes.
until I left the department.
Yes.
That's why even when I overheard about this, our involvement
Yeah.
in another space, I immediately wanted to understand what it was. But on what was happening on daily basis from that day till I left
Yes.
2 years ago,
Yes.
I would not be,
There are lots of
do
things you
that.
might not remember.
yes.
Yeah, no,
Because
that
thank
that
you,
I
sir.
understand.
Yes.
But it's important that I know what you
Yes.
remember and what you don't remember, because
Yes.
I don't want to assume that you knew certain things because you were minister of the department, when in fact you might not have known them. So that's why it's important to find out what you might have known and what you might not
Yes.
have known. Maybe what we should do, Ms. Norman,
Yes, Chair.
maybe let's continue. When we talk about the recommendation, we might have to come back to what the charges are and what happened,
Yes.
because I preferred that we would go through systematically, but
Yes.
maybe we can jump. Let's have that, and then we can come back to it.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you, Minister. We were at the point where you were just going to briefly explain the process of posting of ambassadors, and who does a minister consult, and how does that process happen. So this is now after then Ambassador Koloane had returned, I would imagine, to the DG's office, as you've already indicated to the chairperson. And you say in paragraphs 4 and 5, you deal with the process and how vacant posts of heads of missions are dealt with in a particular cycle. That's what we would like to understand.
Thank you, Chair. Since 1994, when South Africa was readmitted in the global space, there was high demand for South Africa to make a contribution here and there. And also high demand outside the country and even internally. The internally remains. Our financial situation might not be able to make us maintain, but wherever we go still, even where I'm seated as Minister of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, South Africa is still highly regarded and the voice is needed. So for the purpose of processing things in the department at the time when I was there, was that when you post officials, starting from ambassador to whoever senior junior official, we had to decide that we have 2 cycles that there's a cycle of those who would leave beginning of the year, or if not, mid-year, so that we're able to keep track of what, and these people move with families. I've gone through that. Children are taken out of school and so on and so on. Nevertheless, politically, it gives you a chance to consult broadly. And then the DG will every 6 months bring a list of vacancies that need to be filled in the 6 months to come. So the minister would go and show the president our situation.
I'm sorry, Minister, to interrupt you. Maybe I'm not the only one feeling a little hot.
Yes,
It
is.
will somebody
Thank you.
attend to the aircon, but no, it shouldn't be too much.
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, Minister, I interrupted
Thank
you. You had just said you have to take the list that you got from the DG to the President. Continue from there.
Yes, and then post that we also have a second opportunity. Then we invite the invitees, they're still invitees, even if they're nominated, for a 6 months orientation. That 6 months orientation gives us even an opportunity for waiting for the receiving country to also reflect on whoever is going to be sent to their country. Also, the other agencies in government get an opportunity to check. So this 6 months orientation doesn't say I was posted before, I shouldn't go through this. It's until I left, almost like rudimentary. You have to go through that. If I may detour a bit, I remember the late Ambassador, former Minister Square, when he was to be posted to London, he walked into my office and said, Maite, are you serious? You want to train me as an ambassador? I said, I don't know how to not follow this
the procedure. Yeah.
But when he was to leave, after 6 months, we also organized that they come together and reflect on the experience of sitting for 6 months and sharing experience and being, shown the route this way, that way. He volunteered to speak on how much he did not know about this work. And he felt very, very angry with himself because he is now a former minister and he's been minister for so many years, and he did not know what he should have known prior to. So it also humbled me that here is a very senior leader who says this is a very useful task. So even this, Koloane.
Maybe just to complete that detour, was he raising that question of, Minister, are you serious that you want to train me as an ambassador? Was it because he had served as an ambassador at some stage in the past, or because of any particular experience, or was it simply because how senior he was as a minister?
Senior chair as a minister, but also once Minister of Public Service and Administration.
Yeah, okay.
So senior politically also. But that there are things that, a knowledge that has to be gained to become a fine diplomat. It's like you can't buy a car license and get on the road and start driving.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So, but even for those who have served as ambassadors, like Ambassador Koloane, if they were nominated, they also still have to go through that 6 months. Like I said, it gives other countries where they are sent an opportunity to also reflect on them. Draft letters of recommendation from the minister to the president's approval are generated. from the office of the minister and sent to the president. This is after consultation again with the DG. Once chosen, the nominees then would attend the orientation that I had referred to, run by the Diplomatic Training and Research Development. You want me to continue?
No.
Well, she is guiding you.
Yes,
She must, yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Minister. Let's just take then this situation where we have this particular nominee that would have been Ambassador Koloane. And on the charges that the chairperson has already referred to, then it became known that, in fact, he admitted before this commission that he had name-dropped not only the president's name, but the name of the Minister of Transport and the Minister of Defense. So would that process...
May I interrupt you again, Ms. Norman? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Before we get there, I would like to know what the purpose is of taking the names that you get from the DG to the president at the stage which seems to me to be the beginning of that 6-month process. As I understand you, and you must tell me if I didn't understand you correctly, it seems that the first step you get a list from the DG of vacancies. Now, I don't know whether you said you get, that's all you get from the DG, or you also get names from the DG of potential candidates, or is it only the vacancies that you get from the DG?
It's both.
You get both.
The DG can't propose names, but in every country, you will have a portion of political appointees and a portion of career diplomats. I strived to try and, because career diplomats,
that's their job.
Many of them, they don't always get in. But many of them
they don't always get?
Chair, they don't always get to the top, because you don't apply to become a diplomat in order to become an ambassador.
Yes, okay.
It's at the prerogative of the president as to who he sends out.
Yes.
But I strived also. As I had served as an ambassador, I came in as a political appointee, but I also saw what the late Ambassador Skweyiya saw. But it's also important to give space to those who are also former activists, who also had served the country well and can be good ambassadors. Now, former Ambassador Koloane had done both and had served 2 departments, the DTI and also DERCO. And like I said when we started, when I met him, he was an ambassador appointed by former president in Spain. I'm sure the Spanish, if they see him even today, none of them would say they can associate him with what we say. But post that, there was a disciplinary process which he went through.
Yes, no, I'm sorry. You are getting into the part that she is still going to. I just wanted to clarify the procedure or process that leads to the appointment of any particular person as an ambassador. So you get both the posts that are vacant and the list from the DG, list of names, but the DG doesn't propose or nominate anybody, but he or she gives you a list of potential candidates.
Internally.
Yeah, you say internally. Does that mean he has a list somewhere, or there's a pool of career diplomats who are available, and there's a pool of potential political appointees from whom the president could appoint, You know, in other words, where does he get the list that he gives you? How does it come about?
Well, the list from the DG's side, I wish I could say she. We haven't reached that point yet.
Well, yes, well, I'm talking he or I'm talking in
He
general,
or she.
but the particular one you had was a he.
Was a he,
Yeah,
yes.
yes.
So,
When you say you wish you could say she, you don't mean that they are not feeling.
as Minister of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, I was complaining to the President the other day, whispering to him that
Yes,
we have less than 3 DGs in government because he had made us happy by appointing 50% ministers. I have
Yes.
benefited,
yes,
but he always corrects us.
Yeah.
No, you see, we spoiled it, me and the deputy. So I whispered to him because I said, hey, we were also very happy, but when I looked at the list of DGs, we are not doing very well. So we just, out of so many departments,
Yeah.
we have less than 3. So it's,
that's what it's about.
that's why I, that's why I verbalize it even in wrong spaces.
Yeah, no, that's
Yes.
fine. Well, it
Yes.
sounds like what was said about the Constitutional Court for quite some time, that we only had 2 women judges for a long time. Of course, we have more now, not enough, but also we are quick to remind everybody that the JSC, which interviews and makes recommendations, judges make a very small number of percentage of people who are in that body. A lot of them are politicians, and are politicians who are in parliament. Okay, all right. So that is what you were saying when you said you wish it was a she. You could say
Yes.
she. Yes.
Now, in this case here, it's a he. Where would he derive the pool from? It's of career diplomats who now qualify to be ambassadors, or who have accumulated enough experience to become ambassadors. Both male and female during my term have done exceptionally well. Not that political appointees don't do well, but they're giving space to also appointing those who had vowed to spend their lifetime as representing South Africa. It's been good. So, former Ambassador Koloane had been such.
So the DG would know career diplomats who are available for posting,
Yes.
and would you also know politicians, in other words, people who, and other people who might not be politicians, who may be eligible, that could be considered. Is that correct?
Yes, we could also get suggestions from maybe your portfolio, or
Oh, okay.
to say, you know, so and so can also,
Yes.
on the part of the political appointees, like some country has just sent a, so you are also
I
a
hope you
potential.
don't get any recommendation from the judiciary as to what politician should be appointed as an ambassador. That would be improper.
Yes. The attempt we made was to at least, I'm sure it's still the preoccupation of the current minister, that ideally we should have 70%, 30 from outside, 70 from internal, and 30 from outside, because it's good to also have experiences. But Yes.
So when you say 70 from internally,
Yes.
is that a reference to career diplomats?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
Yes, Chair.
But are you saying that the DG would not have a list kept somewhere of people who are available? Or
He doesn't-
would he
he-
have such a list?
He can't keep a list permanently,
Yes,
but he has 6 months to think. Remember,
yes,
the 6-month cycle gave us an opportunity to
to collect
know-
information.
To collect information to know in the next coming 6 months, we'll have these vacancies. It has not always been possible. Half the time, you're caught off guard, and you've
Yes.
got many vacancies
Yes,
and
not enough people.
not enough people.
Okay, so are you therefore saying there might not have been a standing list that he had to consult each time there were vacancies, but every 6 months he would need to create a list in the sense that he would need to be ready whenever you say
Exactly.
there is a need. He would need to be able to say, here's a list. How he got that list was his business. In other words, how he got the names other than the career diplomats who are internal. Anyone who was not part of the career diplomats, how he got those names was left to him.
Not at all, sir. Chair, I am saying the concern of the DG is to work with the minister, because you're talking about people who are going to represent
The country,
president,
the president,
and
yeah.
the country.
Yes, yes,
So-
yes.
He can't have a
A free reign.
free reign,
Yes.
but he can have a free reign of those who are career diplomats to say, to avail the names, to say, here are career diplomats with experience. They also go through the check, and I think the 6 months period and the 6 months, yes, that we had created helped us a great deal. Yes.
Now, I understand from what you are saying that as far as career diplomats are concerned, he would know them. He would know who is available, who is not available, and what level of experience they have, and so on. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Now, I'm interested in knowing how he would get names of those who are not career diplomats. Now,
Those who are not career diplomats, Chair, can come from all senior citizens in the country who would approach us, and we put their names on the list and send where they should be sent. Because after all, it's the prerogative of the president to appoint Maite as ambassador at the end.
yes. That's what I'm trying to understand, how somebody who is not a career diplomat could end up being on the list. This is just for general understanding. I know that maybe Ambassador Koloane's situation might be different, but I want to understand the generalities first. So somebody might approach the department, let's say a politician or former politician, I'm not sure, and say, I want to put down my name. If there is a post for ambassador, I would be available, and they could give their name to the DG. Is that right? Could it happen like that or not really?
Not really. It can. The DG collates the list from the internal and from those that would have approached government to say, we are ready to serve. We can share our experience. And or those who would have been nominated or verbally nominated by any leader of society to say, we think so-and-so can help in becoming an ambassador.
Yes, but at a practical level, what I think I would do if I was DG and people were free to approach me and say, I'm happy to serve, I would put down their names and get their CVs and keep those for when it may be necessary. So I'm trying to understand whether, as far as those who would end up being on the list that would be taken to the president, but who were not career diplomats, whether the DG was free to say, for example, to the ANC, have you got names of people that can be considered either now or for the future? Whether was he free to go to any political party, for example, because I think it does happen that sometimes an ambassador is somebody from another party. You know, I think there have been an ambassador or two who used to be in the DA. I think Mr. Gibson and I think Mr. Tony Leon, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm thinking whether it was part of his job in order to collate names to make an approach to some organizations, including civic societies, or how did this list come about? That's what I'm trying to understand. The career diplomats, I understand. I don't have a problem. It's just the other ones.
Well, political parties may approach the president with the names the examples you've made, which reminds me of another lady who was from your profession, Sheila Kamara. They can approach the political office and say, we've got these people available.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Minister, if you may take just turn to the same volume, FF3, Exhibit FF3. If you could just turn to page 45, please.
Are we back to FF3?
FF3, yes, Chair.
Okay.
Yes, page 45.
No, I'm sorry. I ended up not getting the answer to the original question that I actually wanted, and I think both the minister and I forgot about that, or maybe I forgot and the minister thought he gave me the answer. So the original question was, what's the purpose of taking the list of names to the president after the DG has given them to the minister? What's the purpose of that? Is it for the president at that stage to say, I'm happy about these people, or to make the selection of who, as far as he is concerned? I was thinking whether I should say he or she. Whether it's to get the approval at that stage of the individuals for the different postings, or whether it's to get an idea whether he has any issues with them, but he is not at that stage making any final approval. It's just to get an indication or what the purpose is.
Purpose, Chair, is to get an indication to say we've got so many vacancies and we've got these approaches and this is our recommendation. So from the time of President Mandela, well, I was an ambassador, I don't know. But from the time of President Mbeki and President Zuma, they would say, go back and do your work.
Yeah.
Because they had the liberty to know that you still have 6 months to process these people before they went. During my time when I was appointed ambassador, it took us 3 months to know everything and pack and wait for the agreement. But as time went on, we realized we need more time to bring the finish. Yes. So the final yes or nod from the president comes with when he signs off.
Yes, after the recommendation of the minister.
Well, yes, and then he signs off the names, and then we quietly wait for the agreement from the receiving country. But at the initial stages, we will say these are the vacancies. We would not say this one must go to Ouagadougou, this one must go away. It's just to say, here is a list of vacancies. Because, well, maybe in the spirit of Tumamin, you just make yourself available. You can't say, I also want to go there. Not even Ambassador Square said that to us. He didn't say, I want to go to London. No. He just availed himself, and it was the prerogative of the president to say, I'm sending you to this country.
So the purpose of that initial meeting between the minister and the president, where you bring the number of posts and the names, is for the president to give some indication if he has any problem with any of the names. Is that right?
Yes.
And if he has no problem, you then go back to do some further work.
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And you said that during the time of President Begi, and I think you said President Zuma as well, they would say, go back and do your work. I got the impression, and you must tell me if my impression is right, I got the impression that what you were conveying was they wouldn't be too interested in looking at details or names at that stage. They would say, go and do your work. Is that what you mean?
Well, the details, and it's the work that, there's political work that the minister has to do, the minister has the executing authority to do that work. The career diplomats are the responsibility of also the DG to say, I have these men and women who have served the country. Maybe they have been serving also at headquarters for the past so many number of years, or so many, or sometimes we did, and I see the practices continuing of shifting ambassadors from one area to the other, because some would have been good in this and then shift them to the other areas where they could help.
So, would you, at that stage of that initial meeting with the president, to get an indication of his attitude towards the filling or appointing the people there, at that stage, would you have their CVs and so on, and would that information be sent to him ahead of the meeting so that when you meet, he has had a chance to look at them? Or how would that work normally?
We will deposit the CVs, but we will have to talk to the CVs.
To the CVs, yes. Okay.
Yes.
And so when you leave that meeting, you have if the president hasn't indicated any difficulty with any particular name, you would take it that in principle he has no problem with anybody, but then you would know that you must still go and do political work about these names, and later on you would then make a recommendation, and it is after that recommendation that you would know whether finally he approves or not. Is that right?
Yes, because he will sign off. He
would sign off, yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. No, thank you very much. And then maybe before Ms. Norman continues, also when Ambassador Koloane was appointed, there were talks about him being promoted. What is the level or ranking of an ambassador compared to a DG? And also maybe even, I don't know, maybe I want to say even compared to the minister, because I understand that once somebody is an ambassador to a country, they represent the president, but also I think they are referred to as Your Excellency and all of that. So I just want to understand the ranking, is it Is it a promotion if you have been at DG level? Is it a promotion if you have been a minister? Or is it a demotion if you have been a minister? Is it a promotion? Where does it rank?
Chair, I would say it's an honor to carry a letter that says Maite Nkoana-Mashabane represents the country in the whole of Malaysia. It's an honor. So it can be former minister, it can be former ambassador, it can be a former preacher, but it's an honor. It's neither a demotion or a promotion, but I think it's an honor. But for postings like New York, where you represent South Africa at the UN, the practice has always been it must be someone with really real diplomatic experience.
Does it like carry a particular prestige sometimes because of the location where you are posted? Maybe prestige is the wrong name, is the wrong word. I asked the question whether if you are posted to the UN, whether it carries a particular prestige, your posting. And I just said maybe prestige is a wrong word. But you wanted to talk about that part if you are posted to certain countries or certain bodies. You say you might need special expertise and experience to be appointed to those ambassadorships.
Well, just to be an ambassador
is an
it's
honor
an
itself.
honor.
Yes, yes.
So
yes.
I think I overextended the responsibilities, the heavy responsibilities that you carry as you move on.
Yes. But I guess the point you are making is you may have a country which is such that in order for the representative of the president of the country there to be able to carry out his or her responsibilities properly, they should have a certain level of experience in that kind of job, which might not be the same if it's another posting and so on, depending on the demands and the responsibilities.
From my little experience, Chair, I said it's an honor to serve because I do not remember where you'd say this is a small Anyana ambassador, this is a big one, because when you arrive, it's not automatic that when you are nominated by the president, you will get a nod from the receiving country. So when they receive you, they've already done their homework and they would be knowing who they are receiving. So, but I don't remember any other country because I said earlier on, because of the stature of our country, where an ambassador is sent and ignored. In fact, more and more as we grow into our democracy, even the neighborhood becomes very, very, very critical. So whether it's near or far, it becomes just that it's an honor to carry the name of the country with you.
Would I be correct in understanding your evidence in this regard to be to this effect, that it may be something special to be appointed as DG of a department, as deputy DG of the department? Maybe it's even an honor, okay? But when you are appointed as ambassador to represent the president, the head of state, and to represent your country in another country, it's a special honor. Is my understanding of what you're saying correct or not really?
Chair, I think you're correct, but also equally, As soon as they pack up their bags and get into wherever they will be posted,
Yes,
they also have to be responsible for the PFMA.
yes, yes.
So it's an honor,
Yes,
but because we are South Africa,
yes,
you run.
yes, yes. Okay, no,
yes.
thank you. Ms. Norman?
Thank you, Chair. Just on that point, Minister, when you're an ambassador in a country, do you receive a salary from that country, or do you retain your salary in South Africa?
In fact, if we hear, Chair, that you have received anything from another country where you're supposed to be, even if you are hungry, you have to pretend that you are full. So if we just hear that you are beginning to receive things, you come back home.
Yeah,
So even if you go for 3 months or 4 months and there's austerity measures and there's no food at home,
yeah,
the discipline of the ambassador is to keep
yeah.
the flag
Tighten the belt.
flying. And
Yeah,
Yes.
yes.
Thank you.
okay.
Thank
Well, I
you.
don't know whether
So
Ms.
you
Norman-
don't receive, to respond to your
Yes.
question, ambassadors don't get paid by foreign countries.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
They
Chair.
live on what they get from their own countries.
Yes, okay.
Thank you. Minister, at page 45 of FF3, are you there?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. There is a list of heads of mission posts, June 2014 cycle. When we're talking about this deployment, are we referring to that list? And when you answered to the chairperson that you would have received a list from the DG, would that be the list of the countries that had vacancies?
Yes. Yes, sir.
And maybe a question I should have asked earlier, Minister. The list of names that you would receive as Minister from the DG every 6 months, or as I understand the position, would it be a list, would the names as a norm be required to be more than the posts, or would it need to be, there should be as many names as there are posts, or there was no specific rule?
We've never been so lucky as to have enough names at a given time
Yes.
because of maybe the fact that South Africa requires
They-
some standards, but
Yes.
the list actually cautions that you need people, but not,
Nothing specific.
yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
But
And
also not everybody can be an ambassador waking up in the morning.
Of course, I'm
Yes.
sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Minister. And then if you turn over to the next page of the page from page 45, you have the letter, the submission that you made to the President.
What
Now,
page must we
That
go to?
page 47, Chair?
47,
Yes,
okay.
47 of page, of Exhibit FF3. Now, at this point then, when you write to the President, because you've already answered to the Chairperson that you would go to the President, you would discuss the vacancy list, possible nominees. At this point then, when you then as a minister start putting down a submission to the President, would the country where the particular incumbent is going to be posted to, would that have been decided already by the President at this point when you make the submission?
Not necessarily.
Yes. And then in this instance of the letter which is dated 3rd June, which relates to Ambassador Koloane, would you have chosen that country for him?
We had a DDG sitting. By the way, Chair, if you may allow me,
Yes.
DDGs apply on a regular, any DDG in any other department, regular applications. DGs apply regularly like all others. When
Apply for
for
appointment
for the positions
to be ambassadors.
no,
Oh.
to be DDGs,
Oh,
to be DGs.
okay.
Like I said, I'm
Yes.
saying internally, they compete like anyone else. But so
I'm sorry, Minister, again. I don't know whether an attempt was made to put on the aircon.
Yes.
I think it is on, but maybe it should be increased a little bit. Yes, yes. I'm sorry, you may proceed, Minister. DDGs apply, blah, blah, blah.
They apply and compete for the positions, but ambassadors are appointed internally and externally.
Without applying.
Without applying. You can't apply to
Yes.
become an ambassador.
Yes, you just make yourself available to serve, that's all.
Indeed.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
So the Ambassador Koloane happened to have been available when we had the vacancy in that particular country. And because he had gone through all the processes which we referred to earlier on, we put his name also. And even the receiving country did not reject him.
So,
Yes, Ms. Norman.
yes, thank you, Chair. I see in paragraph 15 of the statement, if I may just read that quickly. During the June 2014 cycle placement, he was considered for the posting together with 17 others. So were these 17 considered also for The Hague, or were they considered for the various other countries that appear at page 45?
There would have been 18 vacancies.
18.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
But we had to immediately fill in the 17. But also then we had to look at, as usual, experience. After having sent the list and come back with the list, how do we deploy? How does the experience count on? Because now we have internal people and external, but we also have to consider experience. That's how the name of Ambassador Koloane came in.
Yes. So at this point then, when you made the recommendation, is it correct, Minister, that in this submission that I've referred to you at page 47, there is no mention of any disciplinary hearings, charges against him having served any sanction? Is that correct?
That would have been, I think, post-punishment punishment. When you nominate, you nominate. If you have 6 months to get queries as people go through training to say this one can go, but this one had served, if you like, if it's a jail term, a term, but it's also an experienced ambassador. So we had no other way of keeping him paid, sitting at home, doing nothing, and we can't say go home because we had no reason.
Yes.
I think, Ms. Norman, it's important to read into the record the minister's letter to the president.
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Maybe we could ask you, Minister, if you can read that letter.
Yes, thank you.
Your letter to the president at page 47. Have you got the page?
Yes, thank you. Have you got it, Minister, page 47?
No.
47.
No.
It is in the file. Oh, FF3, that's fine.
FF3.
Yes, that's the one. Yes, if you could just turn to page 47.
Can you?
47 would be at the beginning.
Yes,
okay, where is somebody helping you?
I'm sorry, I've just...
they just absent us?
Yes. 47.
Thank you, Mr. Sbego.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes.
Yes, would you just read that letter aloud?
Dear Mr. President, I have the honor to submit the following nominations for the head of mission post at the South African Embassy in The Hague. Country, Netherlands, The Hague. Nominee, Mr. Vusi Bruce Koloane. Mr. Vusi Bruce Koloane was born on the 22nd August 1962. After completing his schooling, he pursued his interest in education by completing an honors degree in economics. He began his career as an assistant director in the Department of Trade and Industry, and then served at missions in Egypt, Japan, and China, both Shanghai as Consul General and Beijing as Chargé. During his career, he played an active role in promoting trade, tourism, technology transfer, and attracting investments to South Africa. From 2007 to 2010, he served as ambassador to the Kingdom of Spain. He was also a founding member of the DCO, Matiwani Youth League, Sobantu Youth Organization, and Imbali Youth Organization. In 2011, he was elected as Deputy Director General, where he served in different portfolios, including being Chief of State Protocol, a position he occupied until October 2013. He was then appointed as the Deputy Director General Operations in the Office of the Director General, where he still serves. Mr. President, should you approve the nomination, the Department of International Relations and Cooperation will request agreement from the country in question in accordance with the international practice. Once approval has been granted, the usual public announcement of appointments will be made. Signed, Maite Nkoana-Mashabane, on this date, and proceeded to the President.
Yes, and also signed by the President on the 4th of June 2014.
Yes, also signed by the President on the 4th June 2014.
Yes, thank you.
Your letter itself is dated 3 June 2014, is that right? On the first page?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. May I just ask Minister to turn to page 35 of the same bundle?
Did you say 35?
35, yes, Chair.
Okay.
Although
pages
it's
I have
incomplete, but I'll just take page 35. Have you got it, Minister? 35.
If you just refer to the document, maybe it's better, because
sorry.
here it's
Okay.
numbers.
All right, okay, she's going to
Yes.
assist. Just turn to page
Oh, I'm sorry.
35.
Minister, you can't see the page numbers.
No,
Okay.
the file I have is,
No, it's
I said they
It is
mustn't
there. No,
sabotage you.
I think what confuses the minister is that they had actually numbered the dividers themselves. So sometimes when you get to the divider, you don't know that there is actually a document underneath. But the,
Then maybe when you
but
refer
but
when you
Mr.
refer
Shelley-
her to a page, maybe you must mention the divider.
The divider number.
And under what divider the
Yes.
document is.
Thank you, Chair. I'll do that. Are you there? Page 35. Although that paragraph is incomplete, but there is something that I would like to just deal with in response to some of the questions that you gave to the chairperson's questions. But in paragraph 7, it is stated by the chairperson of the disciplinary, the facts show that Ambassador Koloane abused diplomatic channels and took it upon himself to facilitate the illegal request for the landing of the aircraft. In mitigation, Ambassador Koloane admitted that due to error of judgment, he failed to verify if the Indian High Commission provided a note verbal to the department. That was despite the fact that he's expected to be well versed with diplomatic protocol. And then he went further by directly speaking to the command post, Air Force Base, Waterkloof, and stated that there would be 4 or 5 ministers on the flight, and furthermore dropped the names of the Minister of Transport, Minister of Defense, and the President, in order to pressurize the command post to issue the clearance for the illegal landing of the aircraft. But just taking one of the answers to the questions by the chairperson you had said that the person being a diplomat is an honor, and the person actually represents the country. Now there is a finding that already he had abused diplomatic channels. When you made the recommendation, were you not at least, well, even in the very least, concerned that having abused his diplomatic powers when he was state of chief protocol, would he not do the same when he was posted elsewhere?
Well, this is post all the sagas. So you either, how do I bank a person in a department forever? Because there's
Pre-Waterkloof.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there is post-Waterkloof and there is post-disciplinary process.
There's a post-disciplinary process. So how do you, and post 6 months, how do I keep the person coming to work and doing nothing and have experience? Because even now, he is now retired, but we don't have any record of anything untoward as to where he was post the posting that is under discussion.
I'm not sure if I follow what you are conveying, Minister. Just start again.
I am saying, Chair, this is 2019. We are still on the case of post-disciplinary process of 2013. He had been posted and is back home. And we haven't had post the disciplinary processes and all that, and post the diplomatic posting. There is no, like I said, he showed contrition when he came back, and we set him, and we had a vacancy. And he wasn't selected out of, he wasn't the only nominee. There were 17 others at that time. So if you are a political person, you know that at The Hague there's no freestyling. It's about,
There's no
freestyling.
Yeah.
It's if it's about somebody who can abuse diplomatic immunities, there's absolutely nothing to have, because it's not like being sent to a country where focus is on all the other things. And safe to say that it's a place where we can send people who just understand diplomacy. So he wasn't sent to a big country or whatever, but that nomination was like any other, but the considerations, because you are asking, what consideration did you make also? That we send him to a limited space where there will be, that this contrition continue to be for this discipline, for this former career diplomat who is, or current career diplomat who had a mishap and had also served and came back. So we had no other way of keeping him at home and doing nothing. But we also were considerate of the fact that it cannot be that he's going to be in a space where he could have, the opportunity to repeat the same mistake. What I was trying to emphasize, Chair, was from what I'm hearing, he is now retired, even from The Hague. While we are still on the nomination, he has served and he has come back, and there's no telltale evidence that he continued with the pre-Bruce, and we are on the post period.
Are you saying that there is no record or indication that he, after he had been posted to The Hague, he repeated what he had done?
I don't
Is that what you are saying?
Yes.
Because it's important that I understand
Yes.
what you are saying. It's important that I understand your perspective,
Yes.
how you viewed the whole situation, because I do want to try and put myself, as far as it is humanly possible, in your position
Yes.
as you made that recommendation, because I do have difficulties with it, so that I can tell you. But I'm interested in understanding your perspective, how you saw things, so that I can see how that fits in. So that's why I keep on asking you if you mean this or you mean that.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Continue, Ms. Norman.
I beg your pardon. Thank you, Chair. And then, so in other words, if I really, just to summarize the answer you've given to that minister, is that the fact that he had abused previously diplomatic powers that he had was not a factor that you considered when you prepared your submission, because according to you, there had been charges, he had served his sanction, so to speak.
If we look at all the nominees, even those, because when countries decline a nominee, they don't do it in writing. It's like if you apply for a visa, the receiving country would not put it on your passport to say you are not passing here. But post the sanction, I had no evidence, I still don't have, that he had not learned. But also, there's not a single nominee that, even as a receiving country, where they'll say, here are the good things about Maite, here are the sins. It is for the receiving country to say, we cannot receive Maite because of the following. But that Waterkloof saga was all over the country. It was known. It wasn't a top secret. He had been suspended. He had served. We had put a letter in his file. The 6 months have passed. And as we are sitting here, I do not have evidence of him having done or abused or did this or that. I was trying to say, Chair, nominees from country A to B, including South Africa, don't say, these are the good things that somebody has done, these are the bad things he has done. It is for the internal machinery to say, so if we said we've suspended so-and-so, he has done this, pose that, what do we do with the experience when it is necessary for us to utilize that? Here we are also referring to the joint disciplinary process that did not say fire him, that did not say send him to jail. None of the processes said he could not continue being a DDG. So if he qualified to continue being a DDG, we saw no reason why we could not utilize his experience in that space for that time. Like I was saying earlier on, Chair, with humility, post that if the gates were closed in the other departments, I'm sure we would be speaking of a different thing today. Because protocol, as I entered your gates here I am. This is protocol of your building. So if I can observe this, because your staff says so, there's no way I could bring my own, even as a minister. I have to comply. So all departments also have their own rules and procedures. If we all were to keep them tight, I cannot walk in there and say, I am Minister of Women, Youth and People with Disabilities. Don't ask me to bring this. And I get in here. I was shown, sit here. You will have tea here. Go there. Wait. This is protocol in short. Professionalism. It's professionalism. Because if all our civil servants were to do nothing after disciplinary procedures, we would have nobody working. If we're to follow also South African laws and labor laws and our constitution and abide by it, we are guided by the leadership. We are guided by the constitution and our labor laws. But also, so we are unable to punish post-punishment. This is where I humbly submit my appreciation of the...
Yes. Ms. Norman, I thought your question was about the fact that Mr. Koloane's role in the Waterkloof landing and the disciplinary process was not mentioned in this letter to the President.
That is correct, yes.
And maybe the Minister has answered that. Maybe it's just that she went wider, but
yes.
you see how you take it
Yes,
further.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Minister. That answer you've given relates to now communicating to the outside world what he had done. But then insofar as the President is concerned, because the portion that I read out in the sanction relates to him having abused his diplomatic powers and also having abused the name of the President and ministers. In that regard, was there a reason why you did not place that information before the President? I know you've answered that it was known countrywide, but in your submission now as the Minister, wasn't it something that you said you would say to the President, I also want you to consider this. This is the man that has actually abused your name. But I would recommend that you place him in The Hague.
In other words, if I can add
Yes.
to that question, what Council is saying is, didn't you consider it appropriate or necessary to inform the President that this person that you were recommending for appointment to receive this honor that you talked about, to represent the President and the country outside South Africa, did you not consider it necessary to bring it to his attention that this person you are recommending is somebody who played this particular role in regard to the Waterkloof landing, which was such a big topic? And then you could say, if you so chose, but notwithstanding that, I recommend that you appoint him because of A, B, C, D. You didn't say that here, and the question is, did you not consider that it was necessary to place that before the President so that the President had a full picture of this person you were recommending he should give this honor to represent him in another country?
Chair, the question you're putting to me, it's what I had already responded to.
Yes.
But let me.
Please repeat, because it means I didn't understand it.
Yes. Nominations are standard, but discussions about names are also, like I said earlier on, if we put your name, if you apply for a visa, you submit the passport. If we stamp an undesirable person. The country that had issued the passport has the responsibility to say undesirable, or the individual can also say, I had served my disciplinary process. So beyond the punishment, what other punishment? All I'm trying to say is that nomination letters are standard. It's about the credentials of the person you are nominating. The trespasses are the ones that we discuss. So there was absolutely nothing secret about the Waterkloof issue, and that the joint disciplinary process and has gone through all the process about him, and he had come back now as a, so you see, can we trust a person with being a DDG in a department and not have recommended firing him, but find it difficult to nominate him? President had all the powers to say, not this one.
Well, if you say to me, you did not include that part in your letter to the president, namely Ambassador Koloane's role in the Waterkloof landing, including what he was found guilty of in the disciplinary process, and that he pleaded guilty to the 3 charges, what those charges were. If you say, I did not include it in the letter because prior to writing the letter, I had had a discussion with the president where I informed him of all of those things. Therefore, I did not see the need to put it in the letter. It's one thing, because then you are telling me I did inform the president of all of those things, but not in the letter, in a discussion. If you say, no, I didn't tell the president all of those things, even verbally, and I didn't put it in the letter because I believed that he knew those facts because of ABCD, whatever ABCD is, then I understand as well. So the question it relates to your own judgment of what to tell the president before he could make such a decision, but also it relates to what did the president know about Mr. Koloane's role in the Waterkloof landing before he approved his appointment himself. Did he know that he had pleaded guilty to these charges? Did he know that he had been found guilty and there had been a sanction, or did he not know about that? Because it may be that people might know what's in the public domain, but that disciplinary process might not have been in the public domain. I'm not sure. So that's where I would like you to clarify.
Chair, let me just, with humility, repeat that a nomination letter is procedural.
I'm sorry.
A nomination
yes.
letter.
Yes.
That we finally write.
Yes.
It's a process, but each individual get discussed. But when you write a nomination letter as a minister, you are saying the things that you think the person can do in that particular area. So tell the president, remind the president about the processes. Yes, every president has to be reminded of who Maite is, She served as an MEC in Limpopo. This is her role. This is her. So it wasn't hidden. So he wasn't appointed in secret. Chair, we also said earlier on, post-nomination, there's a 6-month period where the head of state can change his mind. He is not obliged that because there was a nomination. In fact, a nomination is a suggestion. He can say no to anybody. Like, as he appoints cabinet, he can say, no, I am putting this one here, there.
But whether he says no or yes depends on what he knows and what he is told about the particular candidate.
Yes.
Hence the importance of the question, why is it that you didn't, in your letter of recommendation to the president, see it necessary to tell the president that this person that I'm recommending has the following things that may be seen as negative, but here are my reasons why. That notwithstanding, I'm recommending that you should appoint him, so that you make sure that the president has a full picture about this person who must, if appointed, represent him in another country.
Chairperson, we have had many nominations. Not all of them have gotten agreements across the borders. So when we nominate, and if we have a discussion about the name, that's a discussion with the head of state so that he has full picture, as Chairperson is asking, of who is going where. So the nomination, it's not an appointment because ministers don't have...
No, that I understand, Minister.
Yes.
That I understand.
So your question, Chair,
yes,
was, did we tell the president or remind him?
Well, maybe we should start at this. Do you accept that when you nominate or when you nominated any candidate for appointment as ambassador to a president, you needed to give the president concerned as full a picture of that person as possible, obvious in terms of things that are relevant. Okay, you accept that?
I do accept that, Chair.
As a
I also
principle.
know that as a
Yes.
principle,
Yes.
like I said, I kept repeating that the nomination letter, it's like if I apply for a visa. So if I had trespassed somewhere, it is for those who deal with issues on that level, who must say trespasses would become a problem. And it is the responsibility of the Minister of DIRCO to also talk to the President about each nominee. So, but it's a prerogative of the head of state to say yes or no. He can say yes to the nomination and 2 months later and says no to the actual appointment. That's his prerogative. So the nomination, it's not the end.
Yes, no, I understand that. Let me ask the question pertinently. Did you, at any stage, before the president at the time approved the appointment of Mr. Koloane as ambassador for the Netherlands, did you at any stage inform the president that this is the man who played quite a significant role in the Waterkloof landing, and that this man had been subjected to a disciplinary process. He had pleaded guilty to 3 charges, which included misrepresenting facts, and which included that he had falsely told officials in the Defense Force that the president knew about the Waterkloof landing or had given instructions, and that the Minister of Transport at the time and the Minister of Defense at the time had no objection, or also said they had been instructed. He pleaded guilty to that. He was found guilty in a disciplinary hearing. Did you ever place, obviously not necessarily in these words that I'm using, but the substance of what I'm saying, did you place that before the president in a discussion or in any other form?
Chair, all nominees, including Ambassador Koloane, are or were discussed. The nomination letter normally doesn't carry all the details about an individual. Be it
I'm sorry, did you say normally carries, or did you say
does
normally
not,
does not carry?
Does not
Yes,
carry.
okay.
But the discussion do. Earlier on, we also referred to how open we are on nominations of ambassadors, that even those who are brought by political parties are brought in. The check, you don't write the checklist on a nomination, because there are other agencies who have to do the checklist on nomination.
Yes, Minister, no, I must interrupt you. My question is simple. Did you or did you not at any stage inform the president of this? You did?
Yes.
So he was fully aware
of
who Koloane was, and that he had gone through a process, he had pleaded guilty, blah, blah, blah. He knew about that?
Yes, sir.
No, thank you. So the fact that you didn't put it in the letter doesn't mean that you didn't tell him?
No.
No, thank you, Minister.
No, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. And then just maybe lastly, Minister, there's at page 50, if you just turn over the page, there is that, the agreement, is that what you referred to from the Hague? At page 50, Minister? There is from, do you have it?
Page 50.
And did you say 50? 50?
50.
I think somebody must assist the minister. Yeah, go and assist the minister.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes,
is that the agreement that you referred to earlier? That then, after the nominees, then that the receiving country then sends that agreement to South Africa?
Yes, Chairperson.
Yes, thank you. And then at the last paragraph at page, if you go back to your statement, Minister, page 16, you have also mentioned other factors that made you recommend Ambassador Koloane, although we've dealt with that aspect, but I would want you to just put those on record so that we don't leave out anything in your statement.
I'm sorry, did you say page 16?
Back to the statement, Chair, paragraph 16, 16. This one, Minister.
Oh, this one,
yes.
Yes,
that one, yes, your
paragraph
statement.
16.
I apologize. Sorry, a page, that would be the last page of your statement. Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Norman. Page 3 of
yes,
the
Chair.
statement.
That's
Okay.
page 3 and paragraph 16.
Yes, okay.
Yes, thank you. So could you just read out those other considerations that you placed in paragraph 16, 17, and 18?
Chair, I've said in the affidavit that It must be noted that Mr. Koloane was the most eligible amongst DDGs since he was not assigned to any departmental branch. Therefore, his nomination could not have affected the department's operation or any vacancies within the department. At that time, he also had a top secret clearance certificate, therefore meeting all the criteria for the placement. When Mr. Koloane was nominated or recommended for the posting to The Hague, he had already completed his sanction.
Thank you.
I just want to emphasize the paragraph 17
Yes.
for the record. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, you want to highlight that. At that time, he also had a top secret clearance certificate, therefore meeting all the criteria for the placement.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
And Minister, one thing I did not ask you right at the outset when you started testifying was whether this is your statement, but could you do that now? Is that your signature that appears there?
Chairperson, this is a copy of the affidavit as a witness
Yes.
to this hearing chaired by
Yes.
your good self.
Yes, and that
And the signature is mine.
is
Yes.
yours.
Thank you. And you deposed to that affidavit on the 18th of September 2019 in Cape Town.
Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair. That
Yes.
is the evidence.
Minister, I had thought that we would finish earlier than lunchtime. We have taken longer than I thought, and maybe I also contributed to that. But we reached the lunchtime at a time when I still have some questions to put to you. So I thought we would be able to finish before lunch and we disperse. So we are going to take the lunch break, but I would like us to come back. Is that fine with you? Yes, okay.
Thank you.
So we are going to come back at 2 o'clock because there are
Yes,
still
Chair.
quite some things that I would like to hear the Minister on.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. We adjourn. We'll come back at 2 o'clock.